two or something. You may not even have my name in there. Oh, I see Duncan Gilman. Yeah, it probably does. Welcome, everyone. We're going to start in about 1 minute here, talking about why blogging still matters in the age of Facebook and Instagram. So glad to have you with us. As you see Julio Lebron chatting with you in the chat window. Julio is our moderator at our campus office in Orlando, and he's going to be sharing the poll questions and some additional information as we go along. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat window, and Julio or I, Duncan Gilman, will address those. I didn't give you the full introduction yet. We'll give that to you in just about 30 seconds here when we get started. So glad to have you joining us here on Facebook Live, on join.me. Glad that you took time out of your day. Want to make sure that we're respectful of that time, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Duncan Gilman. I'm the Dean of Students for Splash Media U, and it's such a pleasure to come to you via join.me and Facebook every month for a live workshop. If you're familiar with our program, we offer an on-demand style certification and social media training. So it's really fun for me to be able to have some of these live workshops that I can interact with you one-on-one. Of course, you're welcome to interact with us throughout the workshop and after the fact. You can tweet to Julio, our moderator, at Splash Media U, or to me, at Duncan Gilman. And with that said, we'll get started. Again, feel free, I'll just remind you one more time, feel free to interrupt with questions in the chat room or respond to the tweets with the poll questions as they go out. So now we'll get started. Welcome to our workshop on why blogging still matters. I wanted to cover a couple of things here, and I mentioned as we were in the prep before we got started, why it was a little bit difficult for me to find a way to dive into this topic, and it's because blogging actually matters for a couple different reasons. So let me go back to our presentation here. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to touch on a few of those reasons and then dive specifically into the conversion side of blogging, which is probably the most important element, the thing to keep in the back of your mind when you develop articles and content and multimedia and everything you're going to be posting on your website. It's always important to keep the conversion in mind at all times. And then we'll wrap it up by talking about some tools you can use to make blogging a little bit easier. But first, why is blogging still important in this world of everything on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat? Why does blogging still matter? I think it's first just briefly important to cover what blogging actually is. When I say the word blog, and when blog appears in our courses online, we're not talking about the kind of personal journal or diary that you may associate with the term blogging. We're just talking about updated content. We're talking about articles, educational information to provide to your clients. That's the most important part of delivering the eventual product and service to your client, is making sure that they trust you enough first to buy from you. As I mentioned before, we're going to have our chat window open. We have a comment about audio. Yes, you should have audio by now. So if you go up to the call icon, I believe it's either a telephone or there's some kind of a call icon. So you do need to call in via your computer to hear audio. Just want to throw that out there. I'll try to address the chat window as we go, but I just saw that one coming up. And Julio responded, great. So if you notice the three main things that I wanted to cover in why blogging still matters, coincidentally, start with the letters of SEO. But in this case, I haven't used them for search engine optimization. I've used those letters for search, educate, and own. Describe three of the most important reasons why blogging is still essential. It's a critical part of your online marketing strategy. The search side is simply because we're all still searching. There are well over 1 billion people on Facebook. There are in the hundreds of millions of people on Twitter and Instagram. But every day, all day long, people are using a variety of search engines to search for something. So even if you feel like your user base may not be on Facebook, even though I can assure you they probably are, even if your user base is not on LinkedIn, even if they're not on Instagram or YouTube, they are searching for something online. So it's important for you to be there to be found when they're searching. The education component, again, as I just alluded to briefly, was the the crucial part of having trust built between you and your clients. If you can build up the trust between you and your clients, they're much more likely to buy from you at a later date when they're ready to purchase. There are basically two types of buyers. There's the future buyer, and then there's the now buyer. There's a much bigger opportunity to interact with future buyers, those who aren't ready necessarily to buy today, much bigger opportunity to interact with them on social media because there are a lot more people in the search mode and the I may buy at some point down the road mode than there are people who are willing to put down the money and buy now. So that's why it's so important to educate those consumers on what is available in your industry and why they should buy from you. And I have an example of two of those in a minute here. And the final reason of these three main ones that I wanted to cover of why blogging still matters in this social media based world is the fact that you own the content. Blog, again, when we say blog, we're talking about just a regular updated content on your website. You own that. That is your space for customizing it as much as you want and updating it to whatever degree you feel necessary to get the message across to your audience in a user-friendly way. As I have a little chart that I'll show you in a second, the social media you can think of more as rented space. Even though it's your presence and it's your name at the facebook.com/whoever your company is, in a way it's rented space. That information resides on Facebook. It does not reside on your website. So it's important to have a spot where you own the content outright and you can control what you see. So let's talk a little bit about that first point, which was the search aspect, where people are always searching online, whether they're on a particular social media channel at any given time during the day or not, they're always searching. They're always searching on their phone, on their computer for what it is they're looking for. Local search, national search. So here's an example. I was going to show you two examples, one of casting a wider net, and then another one of diving deeper into helping your customers make the decision before they purchase. And here's that first example of being able to cast a wider net by providing educational material. So what I did is I typed in search for tie a tie. That was the search that I typed in. I'm just using Google as my example. You can use Yahoo, Bing, your preferred search engine for your to kind of gauge what people are searching for. But for this example, I just used Google, and my search again was tie a tie. And I looked at the results, and 4 of these, you can see actually 5, because I'm the middle arrow there is pointing to 2 different entries from the same site, but all 4 of these sites sell ties. That's what they have in common. Look at that. First one is ties.com, how to tie a Windsor knot. The next one is from a company, how to tie a tie. Actually, the next one is very interesting. The next one is from a math-based YouTube site. So the clear example of them casting a wider net, a skill that you may need in life beyond what they teach primarily on their YouTube channel. The next 2, again, are the same company, the Tie Bar, and then the bottom one there, Brooks Brothers. These, I know that it's slightly related. These companies, this may be somewhat a matter of semantics here, but these companies don't teach tying lessons. And I know this is semantics here because it's very related to what they do. What these companies do is sell ties, except for the video one. But the idea is they're casting a wider net. So they're drawing in people who may not be looking to buy a tie right this second. They may be casting a wider net to establish some trust with these future buyers. So for example, you may not be a Brooks Brothers customer, but if you go to the Brooks Brothers site because you want to know how to tie a tie, and that's the entry that comes up and that's the one you click on, that is the first step in establishing trust for you to buy from them at a future point. Same thing with the Tie Bar, same thing with ties.com. So again, what do these sites have in common? They sell ties. And these articles are educational posts on their websites. That's what we mean by blogs. These are educational topics. And you'll notice, and I'll come back and show you another example of this, but let me go back for a second. You'll notice that these are not their main websites. Let me clarify what I mean here. So at ties.com, it's not taking you to ties.com when you click on that post. It's taking you to the site, but it's taking you to a more specific page, a more specific article on that site. It's taking you to ties.com/how-to-tie-a-tie/Windsor. So it's even getting a more, not only how to tie a tie, but a specific knot. Every time you create a piece of content on your website, that is another opportunity for you to rank in Google. So they're not just ranking for ties in general, they're ranking here at the top of search for how to tie a tie because they're providing that educational content. Same thing would happen if they had a post for how to tie a bow tie, for example. That's the first one that came to my mind. But they would rank for every individual. They have the potential to rank for every individual piece of content they provide, and that could be images. You know, if you're familiar with Google search, there's the option at the top to filter to just images. So there are opportunities all over to rank for any particular topic, any particular post, depending on the popularity and the competitiveness of that key phrase. Now, I clarified earlier, and I said the potential to rank, because ties.com, the Tie Bar, those are fairly big websites with tons and tons of content. So if you're just starting out, you may not immediately rank for particular key phrases, but this gives you an idea of where you can be by creating this regular updated content. All right, let's move on to our second example. So firstly, it's important to cast that wide net. You're trying to reach an audience that may not be searching for exactly what you provide at the time, but it'll stay trust over time. They'll come back to you and buy from you. So you could use that same example for lawn care companies. So maybe your post is, how often should I water my lawn? Or you want to be more specific, how much should I water my lawn in summer? Well, that's sort of related to what the lawn care company provides, but that's not. But the person who's searching for that isn't necessarily looking for lawn care. The person who's searching for that is looking for information, is looking for some value that you can provide. So that's another example, just on a different industry. So here's an example of once you've gone beyond the wider net and you want to help customers focus in and evaluate, we call this an evaluation post, evaluate all the options that are out there, is another type of educational content through a blog that you can offer. In this case, my search was, how much does it cost to outsource accounting? So again, this is further down the line. You're reaching out to future buyers, but you're getting more specific. Now you're probably going to reach people who are looking potentially to outsource their accounting services for their business. So here are some possible posts from these companies that all offer outsourced accounting. And again, my example is, how much does it cost? So here's a post at the top. It's a little bit hard to read there, but how much do bookkeeping services charge? How much are bookkeeping services or accounting services? The next one, how much does a bookkeeping or accounting service charge? The next one, cost of hiring an in-house accountant versus outsourcing. The top 4 results are all articles. I didn't type in outsourced accounting. I didn't type in outsourced accounting company. I typed in the kind of search that someone still in the initial research stage would use. How much does it cost? I'm just looking for information. But these first 4 results are all from whom? From companies that offer outsourced accounting. That's what they have in common. And these are all, again, educational posts on their website. I think it's a great opportunity to pause for a second here and ask our first poll question, Julio. So if you would post that in both our chat room and on Twitter, maybe even Facebook if you have that open. We're going to post our first poll question and talk about the kind of articles that draw you in. So what types of articles draw in you and hold your attention? So not only ones that have a good title, like, so you could feel free to share with us what kinds of titles grab your attention, but what kinds of content then hold your attention? I think that's equally, if not more important than the article itself, because if you have a great article with a great title, a great catchy headline, doesn't draw in the users, they're not going to read it. They're not, well, if it doesn't, sorry, it will draw them in. If it doesn't hold their attention, the content and the copy doesn't hold their attention, they're not going to read it, they're not going to share it, and they're not going to come back to read more of your information. So feel free. It looks like we still maybe have some sound problems. Hopefully you have to call in order to hear the audio. And of course, we'll post this on YouTube, and it'll be live on Facebook, and we'll share the presentation after the fact. But you have to actually call in to hear the audio, not by phone. You have to call in over your computer. So hopefully we'll get those sound fixed for the couple of individuals that are having sound issues. So think about that question. Think about, and you don't have to answer here, but the main idea is to get you thinking about what types of content draw you in. I mentioned before that we have basically two types of content online. We have the rented type and the owned type. And the advantages of social media, which in a way you could think of as space that you rent, is that your consumers are all in one place. You can reach a wide variety of people on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can also reach them directly. That's not something you can do necessarily on your website unless they provide you the information. You're on your website, and there's no real way to reach out directly to someone who's visited your website unless they contact you. You may have an IP address or something via Google Analytics, but that's basically all. Unless they fill out a form or provide you with some information, you can't reach them. On social media, you can. There's really no difference on Twitter, for example, between a user and like a personal profile and a business profile. No difference on Twitter. So you can reach out to any business or individual you want. It's all public. And there's also, my last point there is that the advertising is built in and fairly easy to use. You may know that already if you've tried any Facebook ads, even Twitter promoted posts. The advertising is all built into that platform, so it's very easy to use and target really specifically the types of users you're trying to reach. On the flip side, the owned content has a few advantages as well. And that's the kind of content we're talking about today. It's 100% customizable, unlike Facebook, where you're limited to a profile picture and a cover photo, and maybe a couple of apps. If you want to put some apps in there too, you can customize those and the look and feel, but it's all still self-contained within the Facebook environment. You're limited to how Facebook presents its environment. Again, your customers are there, that's great, but you can't control that environment like you can on a website or a blog. Google Analytics, something I just mentioned very briefly, you have the opportunity to see on a much more granular level who the people are who are accessing your site and going through a particular process to convert. And conversion could be anything. Conversion could be a form fill. It could be a purchasing a product. In a lot of cases, it is. We tend to think of conversion as a purchase. It doesn't necessarily have to be a purchase. It could just be a form fill or someone taking a certain step in the process that you have outlined, and you can see that entire process on Google Analytics, which you can't do on social media. And finally, it just holds more content. You're not limited. I mean, you're limited to your provider. You're only limited by whoever is hosting your content, how much content you're allowed to provide to your clients and your potential customers, as opposed to the amount of content you can physically fit in a Facebook post, for example, or a tweet, which is limited to 140 characters. You're not limited by that on your owned content. We have a couple of responses from that first poll. I'll share them with you. They've put them in the chat window, so hopefully you're able to see those. Joe had said articles that grab his attention. Politics. Absolutely. Politics can grab your attention. Now, you want to be careful about how you address politics unless you specifically want to take a side. If you do, that's different. But in general, you want to be careful to make sure that you're presenting politics in an objectively worded position. That's not exactly what I was trying to say. You want to present it as objectively as possible, basically. What I was trying to say. And if you were for an objective manner, was helping me with my grammar, which I often need help with. Viewer number 4 says success training, work from home. Education ideas for kids. That stuff really does grab your attention. Grabs my attention as a parent also. Very good ideas there. Let me go back to my screen here. So the focus here, I want to be on conversion, on converting those customers. And the main point here is to get your customers to take a journey with you. So I came up with a list of some ways to get started doing that. all the while keeping the conversion in mind. What is it that you want your customers to do? Do you want them to fill out a form? Do you want them to pick up the phone? That's important too. Maybe you want them to immediately take the conversation offline, pick up the phone, and call you for more information. That's fine, but you need to know that that's your goal so that you can drive everything towards that. Have a phone number that's visible there clearly on the website. Have it very easy for them to reach out to you. And do those, take that next step, take that next action, whatever it is, emailing, form fill, buying, or picking up the phone. So here are some ways to get customers to take that journey with you and establish trust so that they will convert. It's important when you're writing these articles to write like you would talk if you were a teacher. Again, what is one of those primary elements that ensures your blogging success and that means that blogging still matters? Is that it's providing educational content. So in most cases, and there are a few technical, on one extreme there's the extreme technical side, on the other extreme there's the extremely casual side, but both of those apply in a few instances. In the most of the in most of the business cases that we're talking about in most companies, we're going for a big general audience that wants to be educated, wants to have some value up front that they can learn from and take with them in their buying process. So you want to talk in that same manner. You want to talk as if you want to write as if you're a teacher explaining the topic. Save the selling for those one-on-one interactions that happen after they've gotten your content. So once they fill out the form, then you can reach out one-on-one and sell. Keep the selling out of the general public conversations that you're writing about. So one other idea is to think about, and this doesn't apply to every single post on Facebook or Twitter. You want to keep those conversational. That's very important. But in general, what if you thought about your website, your owned content, as the place where you develop the content that you're offering for value, and your social media channels as where you're broadcasting that content? And again, that doesn't apply to every single Facebook post. You want to do some creative behind-the-scenes stuff, ask interesting questions, casual conversational stuff. But overall, what if you thought of the great content you have that you're developing, that you're writing for your blog or for your website, putting it there first, and then using those social channels to broadcast it, and maybe even paying for some of that broadcast. And I put paid in parentheses here because especially when you're first starting out, that's really the only way to get in front of more people is to pay to push that content out there. That's just the reality of where social media for businesses is right now. There's so much competition that that's really the only, really the primary avenue you have to push that content out in front of people. So think of it in those terms and see if that helps you focus in on developing great content that people want to read and share, and then using social media as a way for you to share. It's very important in order for them to come along with you on this journey and share the great info that you're putting out there, to make sure that those forms and those social media icons are spread throughout the website. So for example, maybe even on the post itself, on an individual article, to put social media icons very, very clearly where the readers can see them. And in some cases, I've seen some very effective uses of forms not only on the blog itself or on the website itself, but on an individual post. That can be done very effectively. If it's not too pushy, not too salesy, but just to gather some information and ask for feedback. Great way to remind your readers that you want to stay in touch with them and continue to provide them with more of this valuable info, which relates directly into telling stories, not only on your blog, but in another broadcasting medium, emails. And then one way to get your readers to continue to engage with you is, instead of having a form for more information or for a quote, just have a place on your website where they can subscribe to the kind of great content that you're providing for them via email. And if you can tell those stories succinctly in an email, and send out an email maybe once a month, you can build an email list of users who continue, again, to trust you and refer back to you and refer you to their friends and their relatives. And then once you've earned their trust, then you can send out another email saying, hey, guess what? We've got a new service. We've got a new product. Love for you to take a look at it. Okay, I think I'm a few questions behind you. Let's go ahead and send out our second poll question here. I want to make sure that I get in all three of our poll questions here so we keep it interactive. So Julio is going to put that both on Twitter and on the chat room. And the second poll question here is, what value can you provide your clients up front? Now, I mentioned a second ago that a couple times actually, that the conversion stage is the part you want to have in mind before you set up any blogs, before you set up any regular recurring content, before you start to farm out your writing, before you do any of that, have the conversion part in mind. And when you do that, think about what you could offer up front to your potential customers. Could that be an ebook? Could it be a custom quote? Could it be a free trial? You have something of value to offer, whether it's on Facebook or on a social media channel, something you can quickly send over to customers. And those are things that are very easy to tweet out, like a video with a free guide or free tour, or an ebook that explains a topic more in depth, or even a free trial with a link. Those things are very easy to tweet out, to post on Facebook. And it's also very important to bring that back to your blog. So think about what kind of content you can offer for free up front before your users take the next step to engage with you. So the last thing I want to cover, and Julio has a great example there. We do free monthly workshops. Joe letting them know of your brand. That's great. I would say that's probably a little on the vague side. The awareness is going to happen regardless. The awareness will happen regardless. But what is it that makes them aware? That's the next question I would ask is, what is it that's making them aware? Is it an infographic? Is it an email subscription? I mean, we talked about email for a second. It could be an email subscription to a newsletter that provides this content. So what value can you offer up front? So the last thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to go over a few tools that you can use if you're kind of stuck and not sure where to get started blogging. So first we covered why blogging is important. Still, second we covered we tacked it from the conversion side, because you always want to have the conversion in mind, that objective, that goal in mind before you cover the topics of the content itself. And finally, I want to wrap it up talking about some tools and some resources you can use to get started. And I divided this into three categories here: topics, so tools for coming up with those topics and those headlines; tools for coming up with the copy itself, so the content. So once you've got the headline, now who's going to write this thing? And then finally, the process. How do you keep everything rolling smoothly and churning out that regular content so that you don't miss a beat? So first, on the topic side, just Google search is a great way to come up with topics. If you notice, when you do a search like the couple that I had in my example, tie and a tie, or how much does it cost for business accounting, or to outsource accounting, if you scroll down to the very bottom of your Google search page, Google provides you with some related topics. That's a great place to get started in coming up with headlines and article topics, because those are similar things that people are searching for. And I'm not saying you have to use those phrases exactly. Use those as a jumping off point to create your topics or create your headlines. Same thing with Google Trends. Google Trends is a great website provided by Google, no surprise there. In looking at what kinds of searches are trending at a particular time, or over a certain period of time, like over the last month or over the last 5 years. How are topics trending, and how is their growth in search volume then? And you can use that to know where a topic is going, how popular it is, and whether you should write about it. The final one I'll talk about in the topic category, and you'll just have to actually search for this. I don't have the URL on there. The company HubSpot, which offers landing pages and a bunch of other things related to optimization, provides a really cool tool. It's called their topic generator. And if you just do a search for HubSpot topic generator, it'll probably be the first one that comes up. It's this great tool that allows you to put in 3 products or services, and it comes up with, or key phrases, and it comes up with 5 catchy headlines, like the top 5 things you never knew about blank, or 3 ways to be a total failure at blank. Sometimes the negative stuff works too for catchy, attention-grabbing headlines. So I've used it. It's a really cool tool. They have one version that's just 5 sample headlines. They have another version where you can actually fill in a whole chart of a year's worth of content. It's pretty amazing. So I would check out those three there. So on the copy side, once you have these topics, who's going to write this stuff? Who's going to provide 300 words or 500 words or 1,000 words of content? I have a couple of options for you to consider. One is to do an interview. It's a great way to have conversations and turn those conversations into written copy. You could interview an expert in your field, some kind of a subject matter expert or authority in your industry. Great people to interview, and most of the time they're absolutely 100% willing to sit down with you and talk about the subject because it gets their name out there and they're passionate about it. It's their subject. They love talking about it. A great way, and FAQ there is just one example of a variety of, I don't want to call them templates, they're not exactly templates, but you could think of them as templated topics. And FAQ is one example. What are the questions you're asked most about your industry, about the services you provide? So FAQ is one example of that template. Another example would be 2016 trends. So we're nearing the end of the year now. It's December. What are some trends you saw in your industry over 2016? What are some predictions? That's another great topic toward the end of the year. What are your predictions for 2017 in your industry? So again, those are like FAQs, the predictions. Those are sort of templates that you can use to come up with the topics, and they don't all have to be these huge, long essays. They can be just bulleted topics that get the conversation going, that start more conversations. Video is another example of that. You can do, if you love to create video, you can always do a transcript of that video as a blog post, or just a summary as your blog post. Make the blog post short and do a summary. My final example here, if none of these work for you and you just have to outsource because you just don't have the time, there are a lot of companies out there that offer blog writing, ghost writing. TextBroker is one of them. I think it's textbroker.com. Just one example of a place you can outsource to. It's efficient, it's inexpensive, and they can provide you with content on a variety of quality and expert reading levels. So you can decide how much you want to pay, how much is in your budget, and what kind of quality writing you want. Finally, last thing we'll talk about is the process. This really is mostly dependent on how you work best in your company. What is the project management flow for your business? A couple things I do want to mention: get all your employees involved. It'll make your life a lot easier. If you're a marketer, get all of your employees, everybody in your company, from every department in your business to write a post. And if you farm it out to the rest of your company, the burden is a lot lighter on each of those individuals. So if you have someone in manufacturing writing about the manufacturing process, then it eases the burden on everybody in marketing. If you have someone in sales writing on the sales funnel or a new product that you have coming up or a new service, it again lightens the load for everybody else. And you can assign everybody, if you have enough people in your company, one blog every quarter. That's nothing if you have assigned everybody one blog a quarter. Incentivize them to do so. Maybe have a best content award, or it doesn't even have to be up to you to decide. You can see what content gets the most hits and reward that person with a coffee gift card or something. But make it a contest. Make it fun for your employees. Definitely have a shared calendar so that you keep track of who is posting when. I mean, you should have one main point person who does the posting itself, but have a shared calendar so that everybody knows, okay, January 10th, that's my day, so I better start writing now if I want to have my blog ready for January 10th. There's some great project management tools out there. Trello is one. That's just one that I happen to use and enjoy, just like TextBroker and HubSpot. Those tools at the bottom there are lots of tools that offer similar services. So pick the one that makes the most. All right, we're wrapping it up. Let's go ahead and ask that final question. And I wanted to pose a question to get you thinking about the kind of topics that you can talk about that will get conversations going, will get the attention of your prospective customers. So this final question is a little bit complicated, but I hope you'll participate here and play along. Hope you'll play along with us. So think about what happens when you find a large sum of money. I think we would probably agree in our civil society, most people would turn it in. So my question for you is, what is the lowest amount of money, if you found, you would turn in? That's my question. I wanted to go off topic a little bit to get you thinking about the kinds of topics that you could use to grab your client's attention and get them talking. I want to have just a quick conversation here. I'd love to know from you personally. Think about if you, let me give you an example. If you found $100, I would hope that most of us would try to find the owner of that lost $100. What is the lowest amount that you would turn in? So if you found $1, maybe you'd keep it. You wouldn't try to find the owner. What's the lowest amount you would turn in? And the reason I'm asking this question that sounds like it has nothing to do with our topic of why blogging still matters is because you can turn almost any topic into an industry-related conversation to have on your blog and get people talking. If this is related to your accounting services, obviously there's a clear line between finance and money. If this is about pocket change you have over the summer, you could lead this into a conversation about summer-related topics. So it's a little bit of a stretch, but the point here is you can turn basically any topic into something you can cover in any article length on your blog or website. One of our viewers said $20. However, it depends on where I found it. That's a good point. That's a good point. So if it's very clear that someone dropped it, maybe you'd be more inclined to turn in $5 as opposed to $20. $25, yeah. So this is the kind of content, not only on blogs, so we can expand our thinking to talk about social media too, but this is the kind of content that you can use as a bridge to talk about your industry, whatever it may be. Even if it's on the selling side, if you want to talk about using the found money and maybe applying it towards a small investment in a product that you offer. Now, again, that's on the selling side. You don't want to do that with every post, but you can always use these general topics as a bridge to the conversations. I love these answers that we're getting in. So that's the idea. I mean, I think we probably have more people answering this question than we did on our other two poll questions, and that is the point, that people want to talk about these things that get their attention. Thanks so much. I think we probably ran, I don't even know what time it is. I think we probably ran over. Usually these workshops are half an hour. I hope you found some value in this workshop. This is the kind of value that we offer. And if you have any questions on our products and services, our social media training, feel free to reach out via, you can see on the icons here, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I'll stay online just for a couple more seconds here to answer questions if you have them in the chat window. I hope you'll join us for January's topic. We're going to be talking about marketing misconceptions about Facebook. So what are some misconceptions marketers have on the Facebook platform? We'll be talking about those and more in January, and then we've got our topics coming out for February and March. We'll be talking about those in the new year. Thank you again for joining us and spending some time with us. I know your time is valuable. And again, if you joined us on Facebook, we'll be posting link to the video itself. We'll probably actually upload it directly on Facebook, and then you can find it on YouTube there as well. And thanks so much for joining us live. I know you didn't have access to the slides that I was showing, but again, those will be available in the presentation when we upload it. Thanks so much, everyone. Hope you have a great Tuesday. Thanks, Julio.